Hey everyone, we got the summer banner in winter on first day, and one of the 3 units was Magic Mermaid Freesia, which I pulled for because I wanted the STMR. And today we're going to do the review of hers. Tomorrow, like I mentioned the other day, is the Shinju review coming, so please look forward to that as well. But let's get started. Magic Mermaid Freesia is another super limit burst unit. All 3 of the units we got on first day are super limit burst units. And she is a wind support unit. Now her supporting kit, as we can all see from this, isn't all too great, truth be told. Let me zoom in a little bit. So at EX plus 3 she unlocks her 160 aquatic killer. If I'm not totally mistaken, Nichol has the same aquatic killer on his EX plus 3 unlock. So you have him by now. Yeah, same deal, just different element that he's specializing in. Other than that, by the way, the wiki page is still not up, so sadly we have to make do with the Japanese names, but rest assured, the names are pretty easy to, well, at least they are pretty easy to read for me. But I don't know, I do have her, but I forgot about all the names of the abilities by now. Anyway, she does have a few cool things, like her 10 turns cooldown, available turn 1, which increases LB damage on demand if you need it, but it's only 100%, so I like that it's aquatic killer, even though it's only 100%. That doesn't feel all too well, honestly. But on the other hand, we don't have an on-demand 150 AoE aquatic killer buffer yet. Hopefully the new unit coming for Christmas is going to do aquatic, because that is one of the few ones missing. But yeah, I mean, it's better than nothing, right? The real kicker here is her Wind Imbue. That is an on-demand 30% wind amp, also increases wind and earth resistance. It's decent, right? Nothing too fancy here. The real deal is her super limit burst, which we will talk about in a minute or two. Another thing to mention is she has the typed mitigation, the Reaper killer that is, decoupled from her killer buff, which I find kind of weird. Why not just make it one ability? I mean, I probably get this. Gumi thought, well, doing all in one isn't maybe the best decision, because maybe you want to delay the type mitigation. I don't know, it's... The weirdest thing is that she also has that Reaper killer increase, magic only though, on this skill as well, whereas this one, it's both. So I don't really understand what their thought process here was, but maybe the old meme of FFBE is a game designed without actual thought behind it is actually true. The passives, Warring Spirit at X plus 2, meaning full LB gauge if you leveled up her LB, that is, which is okay. Other than that, she does have a lot of killers, as you can see, the standard for SLB units, but truth be told, you won't use her for DPS, it's just not worth it. She doesn't have any meaningful DPS skills anyway, so all of this here, yeah, it's kind of whatever, honestly. So these are her magic abilities, as you can see, Protector, Shelga, the usual with 50% mitigation. She also has Waterga, 40x only, and Aeroga at 40x only, so her damage, totally forgettable. She won't do any damage with these modifiers. Let's take a look at the LB and SLB. The LB, pretty standard stuff, right? 300 stats, 200 LB, 35 wind amp, not too fancy. The SLB, on the other hand, is still 300 stats, which I find kind of lacking, honestly. It should have been 350. But on the other hand, we do get a 300% LB buff for 4 turns to our allies, and that one cannot be dispelled, which I personally like. Meaning you don't run into issues when you have to dispel your team in a dark vision scenario, for example, the boss imperils you, but you want to actually burst on the very next turn, or the turn thereafter. It's fine. So she can chip in with some Chaos Wave Awakened Chains, for example. Also wind amps 45%, which is on par with Bulwark and Bartz, for example. So we will check out or compare Bulwark and Bartz to Freesia in a few minutes just to check who does it better. But yeah, the SLB, it's decent. I would have preferred 350% stats, to be quite honest, just to make her a little bit more worthwhile. Alright, also important to mention her base LB or the SLB. I mean, the SLB fills anyway at this when it activates, but the LB being 60 crystal cost is rather high. Alright, let's take a look at the Trustmaster and Super Trustmaster. The Trustmaster is a staff, 80 magic, 140 spirit, 10% MP recovery, and 4 LB crystals per turn. It's kind of whatever, to be honest. It's an okay TMR for the 4 LB crystals, but for SPR users there are so many better options available. Like Guard Stick is vastly superior, I would say. So yeah, I don't feel like this is a good option, to be honest. The materia is a true single wield 200% SPR. And that is so good. It's the Cloud Pause equivalent for SPR users. It's finally here. It's so good. Best in slot for two-handed SPR users. That means Arif and Shuyu, to name a few. It also helps Phasey because true single wield, as you might know, states it's with or without a shield. So Phasey gets her good 200% true single wield as well, which I like. So that also boosts Phasey's bulk. I mean, she doesn't need more bulk, technically speaking, because she's already a great tank, but it makes her more bulkier and allows her to tank more hits. But who needs magic tanks these days, right? It's a very good STMR. It's the main reason why I pulled for Freesia to begin with. I wanted that STMR. I wanted it twice, to be quite honest, but I only have one at the time of the video. But maybe I'll get lucky one day and off-banner a second one or so. We'll see. The Vision card, same as with Physalis, Summer Sniper Physalis, it's worthless. Yeah, there's nothing else to say. It's not needed at all in no scenario whatsoever. Base stats are way too low. The magic and SPR might be nice, but ultimately you will never use this. And here's the aforementioned comparison between Freesia, Bulwark and Warrior of Light Bartz. So, as you can see, everyone does have killer buffs, but Bulwark technically takes the cake. It's 150 for the party. It's Plant, Avian and Fairy. Three of these, they are rather rare still, especially Plant and Avian. We don't have many Plant and Avian killers. So those are great buffs to the party. And Demon gets a cow treatment for 200%, which is super nice. On the other hand, Freesia has the 160 aquatic, which is the rarest of killer types, if I'm not totally mistaken. But it is EX plus 3 only for the actually good one. On the other hand, is Bartz with just 100% Plant and Beast and only for himself, which kind of diminishes his value in that regard. Amps, everyone's got the same, but on different abilities. Like Freesia needs her super limit burst, meaning that one entirely depends on your EX level, whereas Bulwark and Bartz, they are ready to go whenever you want them to, because it's cooldowns and they are already on turn 1. The upside of Bulwark, at least in Clash of Worlds, is that Hurricane Symphony should be the ability's name. It gets up to 60% Wind Amp, which is chef's kiss. It's really good. I really hope that we'll see a Wind Week boss sometime down the line, just because Bulwark is our quartet for that. They are for, right? I hope they are. Anyway, LB buffs. Freesia easily takes the cake here, 300%. That's unparalleled in this comparison. Bulwark has none whatsoever, and Bartz only has 100% for the party on his Brave Shifted LB, which is nice for an NVA unit, but comparing this to Freesia, yeah, it's easy to see that Freesia easily takes the cake. Stat buffs. On cooldown and on the SLB, Freesia has 300%, Bulwark has the most on his Brave Shifted LB, 350%, thus taking the cake here, as he is a unit that wants to fill his LB gauge quickly anyway. And Bartz, he has 280 on his Braid Shifted LB, which is nice for an NVA unit, truth be told. He is pretty comparable to Freesia in that regard, but still, NVA versus SLB or LB unit. Yeah, it's easy to see. I mean, as you all can see, Bartz is actually a decent budget option to compare to these two. So, yeah. And Imperils. Well, this is where Freesia falls apart. She doesn't have any Imperils, sadly. I'm quite disappointed that they didn't give a Roca the Imperil function to it. Some units do have on their gas belts. They do have Imperils on their gas belts, so I'm kind of disappointed they didn't do the same for Freesia. Bulwark, on the other hand, 130 baseline and 135 in Clash of Wills, Wind Imperil that is. And Bartz has that 120% Wind Imperil. So, yeah. Rank 1 spot in this particular part goes to Bulwark, obviously. Second spot goes to Bartz. And Freesia, well, she's here. She's there. She doesn't do much. So, all in all, comparing this, yeah, Freesia is a good unit to have. She has her niche uses, but she's more or less a side grade. And at best, she's identical to Roca, Nichol, and Sakura. So if you have Bulwark, Freesia really only feels like a side grade, like I mentioned, and the only reason you're pulling for her, it's either Sprite or the Super Trust Master. Alright, so how does she fare in the meta? Well, she is a good win support, that is for sure, all things considered, but sorely lacks the Imperil. Like I mentioned, it should have been on a Roca, but it isn't. She only has 100 party killer buffs. The good one, the Aquatic Killer 160, is only unlocked at EX plus 3, which it's not good at all from my point of view. So, and she gets badly power crept in most scenarios by Bulwark, as we've just seen from the comparison. There's only really the LB department where Freesia really shines, but we do have other means to buff LB damage, and the key units, Lara or Angela for example, they do have 300% LB buffs in their kit incorporated. So this begs the question, why would you bring Freesia when you can bring Bulwark, who also can deal some damage that might not be really relevant in the grand scheme of things, but it adds up. Whereas Freesia, she won't do much damage, neither in Clash nor in Dark Visions or Vision World. Whereas Bulwark, he does contribute to the overall outcome of the fight. Freesia, she has no Brave Shift, so that means she won't have any use in Clash. Or maybe she does, because she's not being brought for damage anyway, and I do believe that you could entirely build her for evasion and resistances and not really lose much on anything. On the other hand, with Bulwark around and Clash, and him being a 60% Wind Amper in Clash, there's actually no reason to ever bring Freesia. Also, one of the other reasons is we are not using LB units, sadly, in Clash. It's most of the time, well, let's say from the three best DPS in Clash, Skye, Lara, and Carton, only one, so 1/3, is an LB finisher. And is it worth it to bring a unit for that? No, I'd rather use Zidane's STMR. So, yeah. Nothing that she provides, like I explained just now, other than the 300 LB buff, is all that great to begin with. So, should you pull... I mean, she is a great puller for the STMR, like I did the other day. And when it comes to buffs, Bulwark does it better in almost every department. But I do want to give her the benefit of the doubt that there might be some super niche usage for a win team that heavily leans into LB damage, like the current Dark Visions, for example, where she might see some use. I personally wouldn't, because Bulwark is still better in this Dark Visions than Freesia, just because he has that Avian Killer. So yeah, the one Dark Vision where she could have been useful, Bulwark still does it better. That's unfortunate, isn't it? Other than that, she's just another Roca, Nichol, or Sakura with niche usage. Best course of action, if you're asking me, it's either use tickets and hope for a good outcome, or just skip it and hope to off-banner her sometime down the line for the STMR. And that is it for today's review. Thank you all for watching. We'll see each other later for the top 5 underrated units, which releases when this video is 4 hours old. So have a great Saturday morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you're from. See you later. Bye bye.